You look a
You know,
gentleman here.
that happens to all presidents, my understanding is. You go in.
How did you manage to hold it off longer? Because
Might have something to do with age as well. Not sure.
Yeah, it's in the genes. In the
Yeah.
genes.
I didn't go.
I think you're older than I am, Harry.
And you know, with all this information about dyeing and finishing, we should be able to color our hair, right?
Well, you know, I started graying when I was 18, and well, maybe a little earlier than that. And it gave me benefits when I was 18 because the legal drinking age was 21. Because I didn't get carded. And when I was working for SDL Atlas, or first started working for SDL Atlas, I was 32, and I was more gray, but not nearly where I am now. And it gave me credibility. And now at 52, I guess I just know all the answers. They sure come to me for a lot of the questions.
You are a seasoned pro now.
I am full of garbage.
I was about to say that.
Well, knowing where you actually stand is always a good thing, and telling people that answer usually gets you further down the road than sometimes the garbage that we come up with.
Well, on that garbage note, the recording has started. So
okay.
We can wait a couple more minutes, probably. We've got 20 people in here so far, and I believe 30 registered. So we'll see if we can get a couple more to trickle in. The first section, and I'll do my spiel on recordings, but the first section of this discussion is going to be a panel. I have a few prepared questions for each of you to review. We'll see if the audience has any questions as well, and then we will stop recording, and we're going to break out into different rooms. And so depending on how many people we have join, we're going to ask that we're going to break everyone out into rooms, have a one-on-one kind of meet and greet with some new people, hopefully faces if people feel comfortable turning on their cameras, and just treat it as a networking session, get to know the presidents.
Okay.
Sounds like a plan.
Maria, do you want to run the slide deck for me? Or Josie?
Absolutely.
Thank you. And thank you all for joining today. I appreciate you taking the time and meeting with some of our members from RISE.
No problem.
Yes, it's a pleasure.
Harry, I told Andrew I'll tell you after this meeting.
One problem with having 4 presidents, in a meeting is that we talk too much. So that's
why we're breaking out into rooms.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Anyways, I'll stop on that note.
Listen, we pre-planned for this, okay? So welcome everyone. My name is Jessica Brooks. I am the current chair for the RISE interest groups, and this is the Meet the Presidents panel. Maria, if you can go to the next slide. This is our housekeeping slide. So this is your session. Please feel free to ask questions. While the speaker is presenting, keep your mics muted. This is recorded. So if you don't feel comfortable speaking or having your webcam on, feel free to mute it and also stop your camera from sharing. We are going to record the panel session, and then after the panel, we'll end the recording and we'll break out into rooms to be able to have a networking session. If you can go to the next slide, please, Maria. I want to welcome a few of our presidents. We have Andrew Fraser, who is the president-elect. He will be president for 2025 to 2026. We have John Crocker, who is our current president of AATCC, and we have two past presidents here joining with us today. We have Harry Scopes and we have Nelson Hauser. So thank you all for joining. I included the years that you were president down below on this slide. I also included slides with your headshots and your bios. I will say each of you have very extensive bios, so I'm not going to read through each of them, but I found it very interesting that I think all of you went to NC State. So love that for you, not for me. I did not go to NC State, but thank you for all of your experiences. I hope that with these next couple of questions, we'll be able to go through your experiences with AATCC and how that helped develop who you are today. And thank you for Maria for going through each of these slides. I'm sure if anyone has specific questions to their bios, feel free to add that to the chat and we can definitely address it. So
Nelson, you haven't aged, by the way.
It's true. He looks as good as he did then.
I know.
I am seasoned. I am mature.
I love that. That's the way to say it from now on. I'm just seasoned. So let's get into some questions. If anyone in the meantime, if you have any questions, please feel free to pop them into the chat. But the first one I'd love to start with is, why did you originally join AATCC? And I don't know who wants to handle that first. Maybe John, if you wanna be my first one.
Sure, I'll be happy to. I joined AATCC completely as an accident. Unlike my other three individuals on the call, I did not go to school in textiles. I went to school for industrial engineering, and when I graduated with a degree, a textile firm, Milliken Textiles, made me the best offer out of school. It's funny in that a lot of my family had been heavily involved in textiles, and actually my grandfather had been involved with AATCC, but it was just a complete accident that I ended up in textiles. And then a happy accident happened after that, in that I was working in a cloth room as a supervisor, which got me taking samples to a laboratory over and over and over again. And I thought it was interesting. And the day that I graduated from university, my father told me something that I have passed along to many young people. And that was that he was proud of me, and that what he wanted me to do was to learn as much as I could about something that was really interesting to me in the textile field, and then do my absolute best to get a job paying me to do that. And I was lucky enough that Glen Raven, a textile company in Burlington, North Carolina, offered me a job to be their lab manager. Actually, it was to put the lab together and run the project. And part of me going to learn about the lab, or to installing the lab, was I figured I needed to learn some lab techniques in regards to textiles. So I took the introductory to textile testing class, and that was in, I think, 1998, 98 or 99. And I thought to myself, this is an organization that I need to be involved with. So now 25 some odd years later, I'm the president of the association.
Yeah. And it's funny that you said you didn't necessarily, you joined by accident, but subliminally,
yeah, that
you
works.
At least, yeah, fine. You know, having your family be part of it, it was all just kind of happened.
I'm a textile brat that ended up getting to the presidency. So there you go.
Yeah, that's perfect. Nelson, how about you? Why did you originally join AATCC?
Well, just a bit in terms of going to NC State, I originally was going to Appalachian State to be a teacher of chemistry, and NC State had an excellent recruiting program coming to high schools, and so I was convinced textiles was the future. So I went there in '63, so that tells you how old I am. But I joined AATCC as a sophomore, and the AATCC was the kind of the organization for textile chemists to join. At that time, there were two schools, textile chemistry and textile technology. And the technologies went another direction, and textile chemist went to A Square. And so I never looked back. Made a career out of it.
Yeah, you chose and you stuck with it. I like it.
But
Let's go to Harry.
that's quickly my background to A
No,
Square.
that's perfect.
The question is, how did we get into AATCC?
Why did you originally join AATCC?
Mine's very easy. They had pizza at the meetings at school. I tell this story because it's actually true. I knew some of the people who were actually part of the leadership. And I think I was invited, so that's the story, right? We're supposed to invite people, and but they did have pizza, and I would go for that. And I was new to North Carolina State University actually, so I was a transfer, and I just thought, well, it's probably good to be part of something where they're talking about our profession. And that turns out to be actually a good idea, but it was really truly by accident. Yeah, so I like John's word, and I just wouldn't want anyone listening to this at any time, whether it's live now or in the recording, to think that you have to have some kind of qualification, like there needs to be some preset understanding of textiles or testing or anything to be part of AATCC. So yeah, I just rolled right back into it.
Yeah, I think we can take away two things from there. One, bring pizza and they will come, right? And two, no, I think it's perfect not having that background. My undergrad is in criminal justice and sociology, so nothing to do with textiles, yet here I am. So if AATCC adopts anyone that wants to be involved in textiles, so I think that's a good message.
Yeah.
Andrew, you want to give us your why did you originally join AATCC story?
Necessity. When I got out of school, I went to work for Burlington Menswear Division. And when I left there, I went to Capital Mercury Shirt, which is in North Central Arkansas. And I was the only one that really had any technical background whatsoever. And JCPenney's was one of our largest customers, and they kept requiring all these tests and nobody really knew about them. So they basically sent me into one of the classes to learn, and it kind of went from there. We had a lot of issues with shaded shirts. When you think about a shirt, front and back. Front's got a split. You've got colors, cuffs, and if you lay goods down in a certain way, you can get, especially at a splice, you can get different colored cuff or collar or whole panel. And that's actually, in doing that, that's where I met Roland Connolly, because they had just started Sheelin, and he goes, do you have any samples we can use to read? Well, the waist on a men's dress shirt is at the collar, or the hole where the collar goes. It's a half moon. So we were doing about 560 ply per cut. And so he goes, do you have any more neck holes? And so every time, because he was in Greensboro, my parents lived in Greensboro, and I was in Arkansas. So every time I went home or went to Dan River to visit, or New Cherokee, I'd fill up this sample case with neck holes that I pulled from the cutting table. So it really was necessity. I got into it because I needed to understand the test methods, and then through that met Roland, um, and reconnected with Nelson. Nelson was when I was an intern at SEBA. Nelson was my mentor. So it was natural.
I really like that each of your stories are different, but you're still here, so, maybe have started differently, but still staying here. And that brings me to my next question, which is, why have you continued to be a member of AATCC? Andrew, do you want to start with that one?
Oh, yeah. Lots of different reasons. The camaraderie. I think, when you think about the people that stand out in the organization, I mean, other than the presidents and the officers, but Ken Butts and I went to school. Carol Rebels was in that class as well. So we kind of knew each other. Lou Protonentis as well. So we knew each other in school, and this was kind of an organization where we got to reconnect after, living outside in the real world. But we, as we faced problems, and I still do this today, I'll call Nelson and say, hey, I've got this problem. Can you help me with it? And it went from there. And then all of a sudden you looked around and we're kind of the ones that know more in some cases than a lot of other people that are coming. So that's when we start doing the workshops and we start doing the talks and so it was a natural progression. And, I don't think I would ever leave this organization. It's my home.
Yeah. I mean, quote right there. That's a great way to feel about an organization, and definitely a reason to stay. Harry, do you want to tell us?
Yeah, and there's a book, by the way, to answer this question. It's good for people to look into this. Is it Dying for a Living? There's an actual book that was written about the history of AATCC. And obviously it ended before my presidency because no glory was mentioned. All right. No, just kidding. All right. But that book actually tells you two sides of a story of why people are part of AATCC. And I fall on one of the two sides, I think, certainly. The original side, and I would say the pure side, is that there was a technical reason to be part of AATCC. And I think that is a very important part. And early in my career, I would say that is why I was part of AATC, and I continued. I've been part of it for 28 years now. I'll ask somebody later what it actually is. But if you include, school, then it's definitely that long. And originally, it's like you're looking for knowledge. This is a great place. People are presenting. There's everything from the buyers to the sellers. Everything is represented in the presentations. And quite a few of the local meetings are basically free. The technical committee meetings are free. So originally it was that, but I would say I've changed to the other party, which is people who are going for networking. And I think that without the group of people that I know at AATCC, and every meeting I go to, I meet somebody I've never met. So that's pretty neat. It's helped me in my business. It's helped me in work, solving problems, and even up to business development. So where AATCC is a technical organization at heart, I just think the real heart is the network, and we could have a nice conversation about that. It's in that book, Dying for a Living. I see that stream of conversation going, on both sides of that history. And I would say I've stayed in here because of the network and being able to make friends, having friends. It's hard to keep friends, right? We actually have them here, and to make new ones and help develop business. So those are my reasons.
Those are great reasons.
Yeah.
Nelson, do you want to add anything?
Well, I can. Yes, I'd echo 100% the networking part. And I was fortunate that one of my first employers was a big AATCC supporter. And so he had his technical staff going to the conferences or technical programs, and he was, I guess, smart enough, shrewd enough that we all had assignments and had to give reports. And so, the kind of the lesson out of that is attending an AATCC program, much like it's been said, if you leave an event and didn't learn anything, meet anybody, then you were not listening and engaged in that program. Uh, and A Square becomes infectious. I think the more you engage, the more that you learn and the more you want to engage. And I also look at A Square as a one-stop shopping. You will not, I'm sure other organizations can say the same thing, but you will not attend and participate with an organization that has so many contacts that this is uh, your employer field in terms of academics, dyeing and finishing, chemicals, test methods, you name it is there. And so this is your continuing education alternative with AATCC.
I love that you put it that way, because I can see the conversations that are happening on AATCC communities where people are asking questions, and we have members that are commenting back or giving direction, and I love thinking of it as a continuing education. I think that's a really great way to put it. John, any last comments on why have you continued to be a member?
Bob Laddie voluntold me to do it. No, in all seriousness, one of my mentors is a past president, Robert Laddie, and the company that I work for manufactures a lot of textile testing instruments, and we regularly get contacted about the items that we make, as well as items that we don't make, because someone will reach out to us to ask if we know somebody that has this or know somebody that can test to this. And the people that are on this call, the people that are in these meetings, along with other meetings that I'm a member of, they're the people that are in my contact list. I mean, they are the people that I can reach out to. I'm sure many people have heard before, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And all of the people that I know make my job easier. So I've continued.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear that AATCC is a great place to not only learn, but also network and really take your career to the next level. So let's talk about what are some of the accomplishments you have achieved related to AATCC. Is there something that you were able to do because you were a member of AATCC, or something that you can directly relate to AATCC?
Go ahead, Harry. Every time I've worked for a business and I was new there, and I would have this new concept, new idea for the chemistry, I would present at the next international conference or discovery summit. And I'm telling you, it has always been the starting point for new applications or patents that I've filed, always. Because if you get in front of the audience and you share, I love to share when you tell people, I don't know the answer, to this part, but I'm here. And if any of you know, and Nelson knows everything, right? So John, if Nelson doesn't know, Andrew knows. And if Andrew doesn't know, John knows. And maybe
that's right.
There's a few other people. And so my favorite experiences as far as, like activities at AATC are just choose to be brave enough to give a presentation, get your company to agree, you do all those things. It's a lot of fun. And you get up there and you tell people what you know and what you don't want to know and what you're happy to learn, right? From your own audience. And the AATCC audience is actually they want you to succeed. It's a very interesting thing, right? If you're in a commercial group that's only commercial, it's you don't get that feeling. It's more competitive. In this one, it's like everyone wants you to know what you need. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, or mention something that maybe you didn't think of.
Yes, and yeah, of course you have to be open to that. You can't walk in. So beware of a textile person who says, "I know."
Right.
That is like I was most impressed actually with guys like Nelson and presidents in the past. They always start everything, well, I'm not an expert in this. And they start that way, and you feel like saying, listen, Nelson, if you don't know this, what are we all doing here?
Who else does?
But it's such an art. Textile chemistry is such an art. Even the textile design and all the more obvious arts, that you can't possibly say you know everything anymore. The more you know, right, the less you know. So that was my favorite is learning from the audience and sharing it.
I've got
That's
one.
a great example. Go ahead, Andrew.
So Casey Kamek was in a meeting, and he was having trouble with color approval with, was it Ralph Lauren? I think is who he worked
Yeah.
for. And he's
Yes.
like, I match all these colors, and then he looks at it in LED light and fails all of them. And he stood up and very passionately said, when are we going to get an LED light standard? And that started something very interesting and exciting, in that right after that, I joined CTL at the time, and Walmart was looking at LED lighting. So I went to Amr Khan and I said, hey, Amr, this whole LED thing, he looked up at me, said, you want to be involved, don't you? I went, absolutely. And we, me, I'm nobody, but I invited all the light manufacturers into the little conference room in CTL in Bentonville, Arkansas. And we had GE and we had Phillips and we had everyone. And then we had John Darcy and we had Roland and we had Data Color and X-Ray, and we were all in this room and we're all talking about LED lighting. And it took a long time. It took a very long time, but we were able to go up to the labs in Cleveland, the GE labs in Cleveland. And I can remember, kind of, we got picked up in an SUV and we're kind of going through, and it's pretty ghetto. And we arrive, and I said, well, where's Thomas Edison? And the driver goes, these are his original labs. So you walk into GE knowing that these were the inventor of the light bulbs lab. And they start showing us around, and they've got a room with LED light, controls, and well, this is your light source, and these are all the different lights that you can go. And the merchants brought product and put the same product on both sides of the room, and just, it was such a unique experience to kind of watch them build a light source and say, this is the light source that we want to do. And then once you had the SPD of that light source, then go through the CIE process of trying to get the CIE to agree to a light source. And it was a combination of about 12, none of which were Walmart, by the way. But that whole process was kind of, to me, it was one of the things that I was involved with, because Casey said, when are we going to get an LED light source?
Yeah.
And it was very cool. It was probably one of the highlights of my career.
Wow. That's fascinating. And to know that they're still using the labs is wild.
Oh yeah.
That's a crazy story.
And just one thing, before Norman Rockwell became famous, they hired him to do these paintings for the retired executives, right? Mm-hmm. So when he became famous, they started asking those executives for those portraits back. Well, one of them came back without the signature because the wife didn't like the frame it came in and wanted to use the frame that she had, and literally cut his name off the bottom of the artwork.
Nope.
So that's
well, that's why she was like, "Oh, give it back. It's not worth anything now."
Go ahead,
Oh.
John. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, John.
Jessica, if you, the question was, refresh my memory on exactly
Yep.
what the question was.
Yep, it was, what are some
Accomplishments.
accomplishments that you've achieved related to AATCC?
The one that I am most proud of. I know this is going to be hard for people, for new rising professionals to believe, but believe it or not, there was a 5-year long panic question in one of the committees, RA 88, about the fact that Whirlpool was no longer going to do an AATCC approved washing machine. And one night over dinner with my boss, I was talking with him and I said, we should build a washing machine. Again, we make equipment. He said, nah, I don't think we need to do that. Well, I happened to mention it to one of my coworkers, and he said, you know what, that's actually a really good idea. And he actually went into petty cash and we bought an industrial grade washing machine and gutted it to figure out how we were going to build a washing machine that could meet the AATCC requirements. And over about a 2-year process, we worked together and we built a washing machine that would work to do all the things that AATCC needed to do. And the continued panic in the meeting that was going on of how are we going to do this? How are we going to do this? And anyone that actually knows me knows that it was like pulling teeth for me to sit in this meeting and not tell somebody about the fact that we were working on this project. But after about 2 years, we were able to do it. And I was able to raise my hand in that meeting and go, I've got the solution. And today, or the most exciting thing about this is that I challenge anyone that's in that's new in a position to always keep their mind open about things, because we were able to take that instrument from not existing and within 6 months be the #1 selling instrument in our company. And then on top of that, the association, and this is something that this is the reason I had to get up. The association saw fit to actually, it's going to pop up or not. There we go. They saw fit to issue me an international award for this, and it's one of the proudest things that I've ever been a part of. So if it wasn't for the fact that I'm in these meetings and listening and trying to help find solutions, this would have never happened. And it's just there's always an answer. It's just thinking outside the box to finding it.
Yeah. I remember when that first came out, and I was a lab manager at the time for a textile mill, and I was pumped. I was so excited that came out, because we were struggling, right, trying to find a washer machine that hit all the requirements. So I was very excited when Atlas came out with that.
And John, I
see
think you. Yeah, I actually want to know the answer, but what you need to update your bio with that award. I was going to say when you were done that you did receive that award. Yeah,
I probably do need to. But to answer your question, you asked what are some of the differences between a washing machine that's approved and not. This as someone made a comment about, we're all the experts. I probably know more about washing machines and what they do and how they do it now than you would ever possibly know. But ultimately, what they end up doing is that there is a process that a standard laundering procedure, LP1, within AATCC. Prior to LP1, there was Monograph 6 that detailed the requirements of the standard for making certain that your washing shrinkage came out the same, making certain that your washing appearances came out the same, making certain that your color came out the same. And the agitation and the spin speeds and the water temperatures and the times that the washing goes on all come into it. It's like making a pie.
Yeah.
Everything's got, or a cake, everything's got to come together right for it to come out beautiful out of the oven. So all of these things have to be controlled and calibrated from a time to time. So
And I was telling
yeah,
John
that's the
this-
short answer.
I was telling John this morning that I was in one of the labs here in Bentonville, and they just put a whole bay in this year. And they are so happy because when it says it's going to stop, it's going to stop. So from an efficiency standpoint, from a scheduling standpoint, from everything, you don't have to mix the water outside anymore. It's done within the machine. The temperature is correct. It was, so shout out to John. You're getting praise.
And I apologize for that being a sales presentation, but I didn't mention the instrument name, nor did I mention my company.
That's right. But I do believe we
But I'm
should be
proud
able
of
to,
it.
we should have these things. Some of the AATCC instruments, things that our friends at labs use, should be available at home because they connect to your phone. And you can see like how much time is left.
Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't want that? I think you can
Literally.
even turn them on and turn them off. You're at the mall and you know that you forgot to run. I mean, I'm telling you.
No, I love that. I mean,
I
if
think
we
a
can do it for
consumer
our
track-
crock pot, why can't we do it for our washing machine?
I
right?
agree.
Yeah.
So that washing machine hooks up. You can see everything going on in your phone.
It's the temperature for me because filling those washing machines from like a separate source, we had like a witch's cauldron, we called it, that heat up water so we could pour it in. That was a game changer.
Every once in a while, even a blind squirrel finds a nut. So that was my blind squirrel moment.
Nelson, how about you? Do you have any accomplishments that you've achieved that you can contribute?
Well, I've achieved a number of things over my career with A Square, which I won't go through that, but certainly the highlight is as president, we started the foundation, which is with these additional new presidents that evolved. There is a lot of scholarships that are awarded from the AATCC Foundation, so that was a good thing. But to me, the probably not so much an accomplishment as a dividend has been working with and I've been chair of a number of committee meetings and certainly been on a number of committee meetings too, is just the teamwork of as well as the skills development. If you are on a committee, an A Square or a chairperson, you will learn about working with people and managing a process to get test methods developed or revised, and that is a career benefit to people.
I think that's a great segue into my next question of what recommendations would you give to our newest members and where or how should they become involved? So committees, definitely a way to get involved.
I'm going to chime in and steal one of Harry's statements that it's one that I've used many times since hearing it the first time. AATCC is what you make it. Okay, yep. AATCC is completely what you make of it in your involvement. Yes, you can get some discounts on material. Yes, you can get access to the membership list. Yes, you can get test methods, etc. But being involved in the committee meetings, being involved in some of the training sessions, that is going to improve your your platform. I would imagine a person that's not on this call, Heather Elliott. I was in a class where she where she was taking the intro to textile testing class when she was working for Pearl Izumi. And because of contacts that she's worked for, or because of contacts in the association, I know that she's gone on to work for Patagonia. She's gone on to work for Adidas. She's worked for Skechers, and it's just she's gotten into these incredible positions, and it's all because she's involved and she's asking questions, and being part of that has just made it what it has been for me, and I imagine for everyone else. So I'm sorry for stealing your term there, Harry, but I can't think of a better way to say it. AATCC ends up being what you make it.
I can
Absolutely.
I can back that into my story. Plus, John, you know, I have like 20 of those stories, but
Yeah, well, that's okay.
so everyone eventually learns how to get information from one of the staff members. So that's step one. Learn the staff, their names, what they do.
Shout out staff.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're there. By the way, they can't hide. They try. There's a website, right? And so deep into this website, there's all their numbers, I think, or all their phone, office numbers.
And at the end of this presentation.
Yeah, it's all there. So Maria was always mine, and Maria, and that's because she shows up. She's always at the meetings I was at, and that's a big part for members, not just staff, but members need to show up. So step one, if you want to be somebody, find out where the meeting is near you and show up. And now we have virtual things, so it's like really, really important to at least give that a shot. That's easy enough to do. But I remember calling, because I had moved to Texas, right? I moved from New England to Texas, and the New England section was great. I grew up in AATC in the New England section, and we had good times there. It was like, when you get together in your regional meetings, you become pretty close. It's like a band of soldiers, that just, you're all doing the same thing, and you can't tell your neighbors what you do with one sentence, right? It's impossible if you're part of this. And so I remember I'm moving to Texas, and I realized this place is a big place. Texas is huge. I can't just have a meeting in like Houston, right? I needed to have a meeting where people were, which was Dallas. And then I thought, do we have meetings in Texas? And the answer was, no, not anymore. Do we have members here? Yeah, we do. Oh, okay. How do you make a section? Can you just do that? And Maria said, yeah. and that's the same answer you get about anything. I want a test method that does this. Can I do that? Yeah, you can. You're going to lose some years of your life, and it's going to be painful and suffering and making.
And turn your hair gray.
I'm sorry, true friends, not true enemies. And all that is possible if you do it. And generally you find those people that help you along, right? There's a lot of helpers in A Squared. And so the Texas section, it was like I was a politician, I needed to get a certain number of signatures. And after the first 40 show up real easy, the last 10 is like, you need to call each person, and they do sign it. And now we have meetings in Texas, and I'm about to move back to Texas. So nice. I'll start those meetings again, and it was just a good way to I guess this is a good way to answer your question, is what you make of it is what it is. Find your regional meeting location, find the closest one. If you can go to the technical committee meetings, they're in the spring and the fall, those are free. I mean, you can't do better than that. All you have to do is get to Raleigh twice a year. Even if you went once a year, it's better than no times a year. And so those are good things. I think our staff will place a nicely placed link on the events page.
Actually, we have a slide for that.
Oh, you have a slide. Okay. But that's my answer to folks who are trying to become involved, is show up, because those who are in the meetings regularly will recognize if you're new, and we won't give you a hard time. We'll actually get to know you and find out what you're looking for and help you along the way.
Probably take you to lunch and buy you a drink.
Yeah, or have a social somewhere, right?
Yeah, like social in the city.
There you go.
I had a similar one, Harry. Gulf Coast was inactive. We turned it into the Ozark section, but COVID hit and things have dropped off, so we'll have to reinvent that. I think the other thing too about the association is you come with a problem. You come with a problem and you get to work on it, but other people get to work on it too. One of the biggest headaches from my standpoint when I look at all these test reports for all these retailers, and it's like, yeah, for those of you that are old enough, you remember Get Smart when he goes, I missed it by that much. Well, when you get a 3.5 on a color fastness multi-fiber strip and you fail for half a point, it's frustrating because that is such a subjective rating.
Who rated that?
Exactly. So another thing that I saw in the lab last week, somebody's using another method to actually use some technology to standardize their grading against the grayscale. And I'm thrilled. I think it's a great idea. I think that's something that needs to be discussed in the meetings coming up. Because if we can do that and consistently rate, and it's part of one of our methods, it's huge. So again, it's stuff like that. It's bring a problem, let's solve it together. You're not out there by yourself. You've got experts and in different fields that have different perspectives. So it's a great way to kind of geek out with other geeks in the industry, but also solve problems.
Yeah, I think that's a really nice way to put it. I think that don't ever feel like you're alone. I think that is a great message, that if you can't solve a problem or you've racked your brain and go to AATCC communities, post the question, come to the meetings, come to the summit, and ask the questions, because you might get an answer. Might not be the one you thought of. It could be, it might not be the one you want, but you'll get some sort of answer.
You also might get asked to volunteer.
Or voluntold.
Yeah, don't raise your hand. But yes, just to echo what everybody has been saying there, that there's various levels to participate in AATCC. The starting point certainly would be the research committees, and to echo on what has been said, it's not only free at those research committees, but there are a lot of the committees have presentations that are very informative in terms of related to the business, and also the industry segments. That you can engage more in kind of your group, but you can join at any level. And the more you give, the more you will get. I think that's been mentioned several times throughout this, that it will accumulate. And so it's too important for your business not to be participating in AATCC. You're missing a lot of opportunities to skills development, contacts. We can't overemphasize. There's somebody, as I think John has said frequently, that if I don't know the answer, I know somebody that I can contact.
Absolutely. I want to take a pause. If anyone has any questions in the audience that they want to ask, you feel free to put that in the chat. Or we could also switch up gears and we could go into our breakout rooms. I do have a few more questions. So what is everyone feeling? Are you ready to go out into breakout sessions? Or do you want to answer a couple more questions?
That breakout thing sounds pretty exciting.
Breakout?
Yeah, I don't know. How's this going to look?
Well, funny that you should ask. Maria, if you can go to the breakout session slide. I put a couple fun questions on the slide. Of course, you can ask where do you see oh yeah, we do have upcoming. Go back one. Is it not in there? I can pop it up if it It's right after Nelson.
Get that, Weston Savannah Harbor, October 6th through 8th.
Yes.
Yes.
The summit. Make sure you're coming. I will be there. I'm coming not only for the discussions, but really it's for the riverboat cruise. But I hope to see as many people there as possible.
Come early.
Yeah, come early. Come for the weekend. There's a lot of events that are being planned. Golf tournament, I believe. And a few other things that the committee, and that's another committee that you can join if you want to be involved in event planning or in the summit. You know, there's different committees for all of these items. So depending on where your interests lie, we are going to break out into rooms. So what we're going to do is, if people can turn on their cameras and their microphones when we get to that section, you're going to be sent into different breakout rooms where you can introduce yourself,